Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Santee Cooper Sportsman TV. Got another great episode for him, don't we, Mr. Bobby?
Yes, sir.
I'm with my buddy Bobby Langley again. Bobby's been on the show a couple times. We did a Memorial Day striper show one time. It worked out real well. But today we're fishing Santee Cooper. We're fishing the lower lake, which is Lake Moultrie, for big Arkansas blue catfish. Stay tuned. Morning, Mr. Bobby.
Morning.
Ready to go catfishing?
Yes, sir.
All right. We got us a good old gizzard shad, which is also good bait. Got us a good adult gizzard shad there. See what else we can get. All right. All right, we got a mullet and a shell cracker. All right. Now, this is what we're trying to catch. Mullet. Santee Cooper Lakes are full of mullet, same mullet that live down in the harbor in saltwater. That's what we want. That's good catfish bait. We got a gizzard shad down there, really good catfish bait, but then we caught a shell cracker. That would also be good catfish bait, but legally you have to catch him on a rod and reel to use him for bait, not a cast net, so we're going to toss him, okay? We want to be sportsmanlike, and we sure don't want to break the law either. Man, I can't wait till October 1st. Can't you, Mr. Bobby? I'm so ready to catch some big Santee Cooper stripers. So what we're doing here, we're starting off with blueback herring, which is my favorite bait for these big Santee Cooper catfish. And we're going to thread them onto the hook. And the way we do that, we start out, we go under that lower jaw, out the head, like that. And then we want to pull that all the way through. We want to go back in and around the backbone. Again, the third time, back in, all the way around the backbone, pull the line through. And then on that third time, what I'm doing is we're going, taking the hook, the point of the hook, going back in that last hole we made, and then back out, pull the hook through, tuck the eye of the hook back up in there, grab the line and pull it all tight. So what you end up with is a threaded herring. Catfish sometimes are bad about tail biting, especially your smaller catfish. Well, if he tail bites that, he's gonna get the hook. You see what I'm saying? Now this rig, this is a Santee Cooper drift rig. This is the only thing making contact with the lake bottom. What it is, it's a piece of shoestring full of buckshot. Okay. It's cauterized with a hot glue gun on both ends, and it's floating free on our lead line, okay? Then down here by the hook, okay, speaking of the hook, this is a 5/0 circle hook, Gamakatsu, okay? 5/0 circle, Gamakatsu octopus hook, to be exact. Okay, and right above the hook and the bait, we've got a 2.5-inch cigar float, okay? And what that does, that holds your bait up off of the bottom and makes your bait even more, makes your rig even more snag proof. And this rig, all of that working in tandem, you can drag that rig through stumps and brush and over sticks and stuff, and very rarely do you hang one up and have to break it off. Now this fish, here we are in 19 feet of water, and this fish, now see, you can separate the fish from the bottom right in here. That fish may or may not bite. He might bite. I mean, he's partially off of the bottom. Let's hope he's active. That's a good fish. I'd like to catch that fish. This Lowrance X15, this is a grayscale graph, which means the thicker the target and the more gray in the target, the bigger the target. You know, they make color graphs and everything now, and I have some, and I like my color graphs, but I like the old grayscale graphs, because boy, those big catfish, it draws a really nice, pretty, big, thick gray arch, and it's all what you're used to also. But I like my grayscale graph. Got him, Bob?
I believe so.
All right, summertime schoolie. How's it feel, Mr. Bobby?
I ain't too big.
Say, not the biggest catfish in the lake, huh?
Nope.
But you know what? He qualifies as the first one.
Yep.
You know? So far, he qualifies as the first one, the biggest one, the smallest one, the prettiest one. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I should have got the net. Ah. They make these things called nets. I should have used one. Another really good catfish bait are mullet. Now these mullet, same mullet we have down in the Charleston Harbor. The Santee Cooper Lakes have a big population of mullet anymore. And these big catfish, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, C.P. Owens, he caught a 102-pounder a couple of years ago on a little piece of this mullet as big as the end of your thumb. But anyway, I just fillet them. They're sitting the biggest mullet in the world. There's some in this lake, 5-6 pounds, believe it or not. But this one to do, I'm gonna cut my bait small for right now. So what I do is just, I'm gonna put the rest of him back on ice. Like I say, I love to have two different types of bait. That's why we went and caught that mullet and that gizzard shad this morning. We brought herring with us, but I want to tell you something else about your big catfish bait. I think a lot of times we as catfishermen end up using way too big of a piece of bait. And instead of catching 20 big catfish in a day's time, we catch 2 big catfish in a day's time, because Santee Cooper, which is where we are, Santee Cooper Lakes, South Carolina, these catfish, 95% of their diet are carbiculae, clams and mussels that are this big. Now there are some clams like that in the Santee Cooper Lakes, the old original clams, but we also have a lot of imports, if you will, like that. So when I'm looking for fish anyway, at least when I'm looking for fish for like right now, I want to start off with a small piece of bait, just the same size as the bait they eat, the bait that they're used to eating. I just told you, a friend of mine, C.P. Owens, he caught a 102-pound catfish not long ago on a piece of mullet as big as the end of your thumb. So I'm gonna start off small. Now, if I get to a place where the catfish are absolutely eating it up, yeah, I'm gonna upsize my bait some. I might even use half of a mullet sometimes, or a whole live brim. But for looking for fish, think small. It's the same with bass fishing. If you're looking for fish, what do? You cover a lot of area. You use a small crankbait or something like that, a small Senko. But like I say, finding fish, use small bait. You find a place where the fish are actively feeding, step your bait up. I was too lazy to use the net on the first one, maybe. I might even use the net on this one, Mr. Bobby. Yeah, that's the size I like to eat right there. That ain't the size I like to reel in. I like to reel in those 40 and 50 pounders.
Oh yeah.
All right, back up towards the cooler, Mr. Bobby, and I'll follow you. When they're young, when they're small like that, those fins, they're like hypodermic needles, aren't they, Mr.
Oh,
Bobby?
yeah. Yes, sir.
And that thing will stick through your hand. Now, as the fish matures and gets larger, those fins, they really get dull and they won't hurt you as bad. But these small ones, boy, you better be careful. And I don't know what's in that fin, but when they stick you, it'll be sore for 2 weeks afterwards. Another schoolie. That's one thing about the summertime on Santee Cooper. The summertime is a good time to catch a whole lot of fish. Quantity versus quality. Now, even though in the summer you'll catch, it's with all fishing, striper, everything, crappie. In the summertime you catch what they call schoolies, smaller fish like this one. But in Santee Cooper, even in the summertime, you're liable to get a really big catfish, you know. I mean, caught a lot of 40, 50 and bigger. We had something just swimming along with it, just kind of holding our rod halfway bent over. There's a fish on here too, Mr. Bobby. Watch this one. I'm gonna see if he's still on there, y'all. I'm gonna engage the reel. Yeah, he's still on there. Oh yeah, he's still on there. He's still on there. Come on in here, boy. Yeah, this is definitely a netting, a fish we need to net. Yeah, he's a little better than what we've been catching this morning. Let's see what I'm doing. I'm winding down my tip. I'm pumping back. And then winding the tip of the rod down to it without dumping slack. All right, here he is. Here he is. Pretty good blue, pretty good blue. I knew we had a better fish. All right, good deal. All right, let's bring him right here. There you go. Got the rod. That also worked out pretty good. That's more like what we're looking for. That's an Arkansas blue. He was just swimming along with it like a flounder. What I did, I dumped the little line, which of course stops our bait. And when I did that, he went ahead and swallowed it. And I mean, he took off with it. There was no doubt it was a better fish. All right. Now, drifting in these big impoundments like Santee Cooper, we've got our sea anchors out. We got a big 12-footer off the front and an 8-footer off of the back. And what these do, they're like parachutes, but they fill up with water. They really, really slow your drift down. I mean, they slow you down to a crawl, which is what you want for these big catfish. You want to drift as slow as possible. And drifting like this, we got a calm day, which means we can drift sideways. We can fish all our bait, all our rods off the side of the boat. I'd much rather drift off the side of the boat because what that does, you can see what kind of spread we're getting on our bait. And we're cutting a big wide swath through the water as we drift. If it were rough today, we'd fish all of our stuff off the front of the boat. We'd put our sea anchors out of the front of the boat, and then we'd fish all of our bait out the front of the boat. What that would do, it'd hold the nose of the boat into the wind and the waves and make for a much more comfortable, you know, less rocky drift and a much slower drift with your rough water. But so just two different techniques to fish: sideways or everything off the front with the bow into the waves and the wind. Mr. Bobby, thank you for coming with me again, buddy.
Thank you.
I had a good time.
I have too.
We've caught a good many fish. A lot of them were summertime schoolie fish, but hey, we caught a couple of nice ones too.
Yeah, sure did.
And a great day on the lake. We've had to run from a couple of rainstorms, but that's okay. In fact, we got a thunderstorm getting ready to come on across the lake now. We're gonna have to evacuate the premises and call this one off early, you know?
Looks like it.
Because two things that don't mix, water and lightning. Do you agree?
I agree.
Especially down here in Santee Cooper where it gets so rough anyway. But I hope we've helped you out with your catfishing. Drifting like this for catfish is a great way to catch them, big and small, because you're covering so much area, you're covering so much ground, you're fishing all kind of different depths. A lot of times you'll notice that the fish are biting better in one depth than another. So it's a great way to find fish. It's a great way to catch fish and fill that cooler up with fish. And we hope you'll join us next week. We enjoy doing this. We have a great time every time we come out. And we hope you'll join us again for another episode of the Santee Cooper Sportsman TV. See you next time.